Kentucky Spin. Our four core values: respect, education, dignity, empowerment.
Good afternoon. We hope that everyone is well today. I am Amber Ham. I am the Training and Outreach Coordinator with Kentucky Spin. We're so very happy that you have joined us to learn how a paycheck can work with a government check. We really hope this information will be useful to you. We do want to go over just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. On your Zoom dashboard, you should see a Q&A box as well as a chat box. You can enter questions or comments in either, and we will have some time set aside to address those near the end. Real-time closed captions are available here in the Zoom session. You can click on closed caption button and select show subtitles to view the captions. And there will be links that are listed in the chat box today that go along with today's presentation. Any handouts we discuss will also be linked in the chat box. And if you don't have time to grab those as the presentation is going on, a follow-up email will be sent out by the end of the week with all of today's resources. A little bit about Kentucky Spin. Kentucky Spin is funded by the U.S. Department of Education, which is under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And we have been the Parent and Training and Information Center since 1988. We provide families and professionals with training, information, and resources to become effective advocates with all for their loved ones with clients with disabilities. I'm so sorry. We also work with children and youth with all types of disabilities from birth to age 26 and beyond, as well as their families. And at Kentucky Spin, we do not act as attorneys, we do not give legal advice, and we do not represent families. With that being said, we empower families to effectively advocate for their children, and we provide that peer-to-peer model of support to help families access needed information and resources for themselves as well as their loved ones. At this time, I would like to introduce Carolyn Wheeler, and then she can pass it off to her counterparts as they will be moving into today's presentation.
Thanks so much, Amber, and thank you everybody who's here today. So since we are in a webinar format, which is fabulous, I don't know who all is here, but I would ask if you would please, oh, that's great. Yeah, if you can type in who you are. Thank you, Judy. That would be helpful in terms of who you are, where you're zooming in from this afternoon. That would just be wonderful. So my name is Carolyn Wheeler, and I do work at the Human Development Institute at the University of Kentucky. And how about, Jeff, if you would introduce yourself, and then Tim will come back to you when it's time for you to share your story. How's that?
I'm Jeff White. I'm also a Human Development Institute employee, but I'm on contract to the Division of Developmental and Intellectual Disabilities. I work primarily with waiver providers who wish to provide employment services to waiver participants.
Hey, so great. So thanks, Jeff. It would help me, since I don't have that nifty green bar. Jeff, are you seeing my screen? It says Human Development Institute.
No. Oh, yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay, good. Good. Thanks so much. So I want to start first by asking you all, though, to complete this Minty. So actually, I can go right here. So if you click on this link, I'm going to copy and paste it into the chat box. And hopefully, I don't know, it may be that one of you all who have superpowers can make sure that everybody sees it. When I do it, it just goes to host and panelists, but I'm assuming one of the hosts can make it available to everyone. So this would be an opportunity for you to, once you click on the link, you should then be able to, where it says enter a word, enter another word. These are actually, Tim Moore did this earlier to make sure it was accessible. Thank you, Kelly. So why do you work? And if you do not currently have a job outside the home for any number of reasons, you're still working, but if you've had previous jobs, paid employment, essentially why is paid what we would call competitive integrated employment, why is it a good thing? So I'm going to do it myself, and hopefully it's going to, there we go, self-satisfaction, money, experience, a good life. There we go. There we go. They're mine. So again, the link was put in the chat box. I don't know if you need to do that again, Kelly. So when you click on it, this page comes up and you should be able just to type in 3 words. All of my colleagues, my panelists, you can do this too. Did it not work, Jeff?
I am having challenges.
Okay, all right. Well then, if you're having challenges, don't go there. Well, how about there we go. Here are a few more. Community happiness, self-satisfaction, benefits, experience, money is, you can type in the same one. So obviously money has been typed in more than once. That is a reason why we work. Thank you, Jenny. Money, be with people, have purpose. So the Kentucky Financial Empowerment Commission, I am fortunate actually to be one of the appointed folks. So I want to just show you some information. One of their focus groups is Kentuckians with Disabilities. So I will talk later about stable accounts. Am I sharing my screen? Jeff, can you just tell me, do you see?
You are indeed.
Okay, thank you. I'm so glad it works. So I want you to see here, this right over here, this annual household income. So in teal are households with disabilities, and then the gray are household without a disability. And you can see that, again, predominantly households less than $15,000 have a lot more households with people with disabilities. And as you track over, as the income goes up, you have, fewer people where there are households with disabilities. So clearly, actually, people living in poverty, limited resources, limited income, are just a reality for many people with disabilities. And so what Tim, Jeff, and I want to talk about today is to encourage you, whatever fears you may have about working for a family member or people that you support through your work, because it's going to mess with their benefits. And I'll just leave it at that. It's going to mess with their benefits. We want to help you get accurate information so that people can make informed choices and actually really realize that working means more money. And people can still maintain cash payments, and people can still maintain their Medicaid and their waiver coverage. So to start, I'd like to share with you checklists that you could use with, again, family members or, again, people that you work with. I'm going to the HDI website, and I think these will come in your email. You'll be able to see these. And so there are a whole series of employment checklists for all ages. So it actually starts with employment checklists for families with a child age 3 through 5. It's not too early to be thinking about what are the tasks, what are chores, just what are conversations we could be having with our young children ages 6 to 10 around. Again, we often are asked, what are you going to do when you grow up? But it might be more about learning about, what are your interests? What are the things that you love to do? I think we can all remember being children, and probably we're gravitating towards some aspect of what we do today, even at a very young age. And then for children ages 11 through 15, and then 16 through 18. And there's one for the families, and there's also one for youth. So when you click down, you will see it. And these are all hyperlinks. And then also there is right here a vision statement. So Andy Meredith is the young man here on the left with the glasses when he was a high school senior. And actually, I'm fortunate to know, well, I know his mom, but know about Andy. And I don't know that he's gotten married. I do know that he has his own photography studio. I believe he's still working at Publix. He actually just finished a 2-year program at a secondary institution there he lives in Georgia. And but he was an Eagle Scout. So you can, again, think about this on behalf of your family member or people you work with who are in that age group between the ages of 16 to 18 around, again, just all of these most important areas. So I'd like now to turn it over to Tim Moore. I want to stop sharing, and Tim, invite you to unmute yourself and just share your story about kind of your high school experience and how work is now such an important part of your life and where you work.
All right. Thank you, Carolyn. Can everybody hear me okay?
We sure can, Tim.
All right. Awesome. My name is Tim Moore. I attended the Kentucky School for the Blind from 1988 to 2001. While I was a student there, I commuted to and from school, and I did this for about 13 years of my life. And from the age of about 17 on, I wanted to know what public school was like. I wanted to see a typical developing world, or a sighted world, as they would refer to it as. And I was always told, you're going to be made fun of. They're going to knock you down. You're not going to like it. But that made me want it even more. I wanted it even more because I wanted to see if I could do it, if I could make the jump. So in my senior year, I was 18. I decided I'm going to do this. I said, Mom, I'm going to do this whether you like it or not. And believe me, she wasn't a fan, but she just said, okay, son, we're going to let you. And I did, and I graduated in May of 2002. And with a 3.5 GPA, believe it or not. And then the time comes, okay, do you go to college or get a job? Well, okay, I elected to get a job. And with the help of OBR, I got a job at Frankfurt Habilitation Incorporated. Well, Frankfurt Habilitation, for the sake of this story. They're no longer incorporated. So I take the job at Frankfurt Habilitation thinking, yeah, this is going to be awesome. I get to support my family, myself. I get to have my financial independence, all these great things. So I start the job, and I see kind of what I would call yellow flags, but the red flag came on payday. So it's payday. I go to get my first paycheck, and the check was only for $34. I was working full 40-hour work weeks, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And I only got $34 for my first paycheck. I'm like, okay, something's not right. Something's off. My mom was like, keep going. You need the money. Maybe this was just a one-time deal. I'm like, okay, fine. Because I was ready to leave right then. And this kept happening. And we finally realized after months of this and infighting that I was being paid minimum wage, and I didn't like it. So after lots of infighting, me and Mom fought about this because I wanted to go to college. I wanted to get that education because, how they, push the college life on you, how great it is. Again, I wanted to see it. So in 2003 of September, I left FA at Frankfurt Habilitation and got in touch with OBR again and told them what was going on. And they said, look, we're going to send you to the McDowell Center so you can get your college eval and get prepped for that. So I did that from December 2003 to March of 2005. Then in the summer of 2005, I took the Compass for BCTC. I got accepted. And then I get in the fall of 2005, got moved into my dorm room at UK. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm once again, I'm on top. I get to finally do this. And then I get only one piece of assistive technology, a big CCTV that's about the size of the desk that's in front of me in my house, and it took up about that much space. They weren't the way they are now, really small and compact. So I get there and I go to class, and they ended up not giving me the support I needed. In fact, the math professor said no no calculators. Well, they got me this calculator just so I could do my math work. She should go to the disability office. I go, and the lady at the front desk looks at me and says, "You got anything better to do?" So I just knew I needed to get out of there. So I leave that situation, and then I meet Craig Callahan of OVR in 2005. We got to talking, and we got me on the plan, a consistent plan, which is what I needed. So I did volunteer work around town from 2006 to 2009. I got my job at the Commonwealth Council on Developmental Disabilities on November 2nd of 2009. And when I first started, I would use public transit to get to and from work. And my duties would include answering and transferring phone calls, greeting visitors, giving directions, shredding papers, doing research, and stuff like that. Then COVID-19 hit in 2020, and then the thing changed. I started working from home, and I'm now doing recording minutes for LRC meetings, recording notes for full council meetings, reviewing websites and other material for HDI for accessibility purposes. And I'm now a stable Kentucky ambassador. And real quick, a quick side note, as of January 2024, I am now a part-time state employee and am no longer with ADECO. I got my stable account in 2019, and that's how I got my phone that I'm using today and my computer that I use for work. And I got my disability, my SSDI check through my father's disability when he passed away in 2013. That's what provides my Medicare health insurance. So at this time, I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have, and the floor is open for questions.
And people may have questions. I don't think they can unmute. We'll see if there's anything that shows up in the chat box. But again, thank you. Just thank you so much, Tim. I'm going to be talking later about stable accounts, so glad you brought that up. But I do have on the screen right now, some of you, but maybe not all of you, are familiar and want you to be familiar if you're not with the Commonwealth Council on Developmental Disabilities, where Tim has been employed for a very long time. Well, it sounds like 15 years, Tim. And so what the mission is of the council, also that if you're interested in becoming a member of the council, you can apply through this application portal. And then if you're not aware, CCDD puts out every spring and fall a magazine for families called Exceptional Family Kentucky. You can actually get an English version, on a digital version. You can get a Spanish version. You can also, I'm not going to go there right now, but if you open it up, you can see where you can call a phone number and you can get copies yourself. If where you are, you could pass those out to families. This extraordinary resource directory, here it is, 425 statewide resource listings are now someplace on their website. So how about, I'm not going to look for it. I just know that I've gotten an email saying that they're here somewhere and that it's a searchable database. So again, just the work of the CCDD is very important, and actually Protection Advocacy, the Human Development Institute, and CCDD are all part of the DD network, as we all have a common legislative origin, and also we all receive some federal dollars from the same source. So thanks so much, Tim. So I wanted to share, and it needs to be briefly since we don't have long, but just real quickly, a couple of stories myself from my own experience of supporting people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to work, who still then maintained, again, eligibility for cash payment of benefits, as well as critical health insurance. So this is a picture of my friend Clinton Montgomery back in the late 90s sometime, his sister Linda's to his left, and then other folks that were involved in supporting Clinton at that point in time. We're meeting at the Claudia Sanders dinner house for his birthday. I had moved to Lexington. Clinton lived in Louisville. So these are just some real stories, Kentucky stories, about people who were receiving a Social Security disability insurance payment on their work record or a family's work record. Tim mentioned he receives a benefit off of his father's work record. We're going to talk more about SSI today, but at some point this will enter into people's lives if they work or a parent worked and things change in their life. So just Clinton, that picture of Clinton worked full time. And he maintained his full SSDI cash payment, which was on his own work record because he worked, paid payroll taxes because of a work incentive called impairment-related work incentives. Impairment-related work expenses. So he did work full-time. He maintained his full benefit and was able to work full-time because of using a work incentive. Then his sister Linda. So I was actually their representative payee involved in a legal role in their lives. Clinton from about 87 until he died in 2003. And then I took on that role with Linda in 2003. Linda worked part-time from 2003 until she retired in, I don't know, 4 years ago, I think. So she maintained her SSDI cash payment. She also maintained her Medicaid eligibility. So I just want you all to have vision for people. And what we're going to talk about today will hopefully start to alleviate whatever anxiety you may have about people working and, quote, losing everything, because it's just not the case. This is Danny Waits. Danny worked in a sheltered workshop, but then was offered the opportunity through supported employment, and he was hired on a full-time basis at the Best Buy in Shepherdsville, Kentucky. He was still working there. I think still working there now. He was able to buy his own home. So just know that income creates opportunities for people, right? We said that in the Minty, that it creates opportunities for people. So when it comes to young adults, and that's whom I'm assuming we're talking about, that's what I'm wanting to talk. We're wanting to talk mostly about today, again, how a paycheck can work with a government check. It's really important for you all in your various roles to understand that if a child is receiving, now this is a supplemental security or SSI payment as a child, which would most likely be the benefit they would be receiving because they haven't worked. Hopefully their parents are not dead or retired or on a disability payment themselves, but they qualify based on Social Security's definition of disability for a child. You all need to know, that student needs to know, everybody needs to know that at age 18, Social Security will conduct what is called an age 18 redetermination. And Social Security will review whether or not that child, now 18, so is now a young adult, meets Social Security's disability rules for adults, which are not the same as Social Security's disability rules for children. So between the person's 18th and 19th birthday, even though Social Security is grossly understaffed, that letter is going to show up at some point saying that this needs to happen. So please just be aware of it. This is an important part of the conversation around transition planning. The students on SSI, will they continue to be eligible? If they're not on SSI because of parental income, then they're going to apply. They're going to have to meet the eligibility rules for an adult. But if they have been receiving that benefit as a child, it's important to understand that about 1/3 of children lose their SSI eligibility following the age 18 redetermination. So this booklet is one that I think I sent you, Amber or Kelly. If not, I can, because this is a really important booklet, because there's information about how a student could maintain their eligibility past the age of 18. There's also information in here that we're going to talk about next about the student earned income exclusion. So Jeff and I are going to talk about this, but it's really important for you to know that this is again, Jeff and I didn't make this up. Okay, this has been part of Social Security's work incentives forever and a day. So with that stated, thank you so much. Wow, you guys are amazing. Here we go. So this is an infographic that Jeff created. So Jeff, take it away.
So the student earned income exclusion is arguably the most valuable work incentive available for folks on SSI. And I want to call your attention to the very top of the infographic, because if you don't understand anything else, please understand this, that when combined with a stable account, students can save up to $9,230 in 2004 for qualified disability insurances, and that includes living expenses, and still receive your full monthly SSI cash benefit. So what this does is it enables folks, since stable accounts have come into being, to actually be able to save resources, to have assets. In the past, there's been a finite limitation of $2,000 per person that the person can have access to. That is no longer. So that makes the student earned income exclusion incredibly important to students, because it gives them the opportunity to build the kind of assets that they're going to need to have to be successful living their life going forward. So essentially what it says is that folks can exclude as much as $2,290 of earned income each month with this exclusion, up to that annual exclusion of $9,230. And again, I know of very few students, disabled or not, who earn $2,290 a month legally. So the important thing to understand is that on a yearly basis, you could put away up to $9,230 for the future needs of your student. So the other thing that's important to know, through research done by a friend of ours, Eric Carter at Vanderbilt, it's been established that students whose high school years include paid work are more than twice as likely to have paid employment in the first 2 years after school. It's just a tremendous opportunity for folks to transition from their educational setting to the work setting. In order to qualify, you have to regularly attend school, and regularly attend school doesn't necessarily mean 40 hours a week. The definition of Social Security uses for regularly attending school is there on the infographic, and it does include some college options and some information about how many times the time that folks would need to spend in classes in high school. Again, it does not necessarily require what we would call full time in school. So again, really important. And as long as the person attends school regularly during and then intends or does come back to school at the end of a summer vacation, that can allow them to take advantage of the exclusion throughout their summer vacation. So again, it's a huge opportunity for students to leave high school with a significant amount of money that is available to them. Now, the important thing you need to remember is this work incentive is not something you may choose to take. If you qualify for it, you will take it. You have no choice. It is required that you take it. So it's not like an week, which you may or may not claim. It's something that will happen if the person meets the criteria. So again, we don't have the facility to take questions, but this, Carolyn will let you know where this document is available, along with many other resources to go along with it. And again, just can't encourage you more to take advantage of this option for school-age children and young students going in their first year or two of college. It is, again, probably the most valuable work incentive out there for this population.
So I brought this back up, Jeff, just to say again what you've said. So this is to age 22.
Right.
So that's yay. So again, doesn't have to just be high school, could be college, could be a training course. So again, as Jeff said, this is the most phenomenal work incentive ever. And so not to work in high school if a student receives SSI, you're literally leaving money on the table. You're just leaving lots of money on the table that, again, could be in a stable account to save tax-free for qualified disability expenses. So Jeff and I have both found this website, DB101, KYDB101, invaluable, especially in understanding this particular, how this work incentive works in terms of real numbers. So Jeff, how about if, am I sharing my screen? I think I am. I am. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing so you could share yours and show how you can do this on your mobile phone. Should I do that? Should I show them first here and then do it on the mobile phone? Maybe that's better.
Okay, let me backwards then. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Because I'm thinking you can see it better here and then they could do it on their phone. How's that? So if you scroll down, just right, here's the home page. We're just going to go to School and Work Estimator. And I would encourage you, if at all possible, that you do this while I'm doing it. You can minimize your Zoom window, and then Jeff will show you how to do it on your phone. So this is for young people with disabilities who live in Kentucky and have to be receiving SSI. If they're receiving survivor's benefits, if they're receiving an SSDI payment on a parent's work record, unlikely on their own, although it doesn't take long. But this is for students on SSI. So I'm going to get started. I'm just going to put my name in. 2005. I think that makes me 14 minus 5. That makes me 19. Right? What do I want to be? I want to be about 17. I'll be 16. That's me. I'm not quite 16. So I have a disability determination. I'm gonna say I'm living with my parents or a guardian. I don't currently have any income from work, so I'm going to click continue. The most that anyone would be receiving on SSI in 2024 is $943 a month if they are paying their fair share of room and board. If someone's getting less and they're not working, it's because they're not paying their fair share of room and board. And there could be several reasons for that. But the most that anyone could receive in supplemental security income SSI is $943 a month. Now, I don't know about you, but even now, if I were 16, 15, 16, 17 years old, 18, I was receiving that much money per month and living with my parents, I ought to be saving. I mean, really, if I'm paying my fair share of room and board, I ought to be able to put some money aside every month. So I'm going to say that's the only income that the person's receiving at this time. That brings low or no cost Medicaid with it. I could still have coverage under a parent's plan as well. So am I in school at least half-time? I sure am, but I don't have a job right now. So I'm going to click on continue. And I'm going to continue to attend school at least half-time, or at least half-time in this plan. And how many hours am I going to work a week? Well, I'm going to say, actually, when I was a senior in high school, I worked 4 hours every day. I did work 20 hours a week after school. I won't say what my hourly wage was then because it wasn't much compared to now. But if I work now, I'm gonna say at least $12 an hour. But I'm not going to work a job with tips because I would never have been competent to do that. So click on continue, and looky there. As Jeff says, I mean, look at all of that money. 20 hours a week at $12 an hour. So the blue is always the SSI. So as student earned income exclusion, what Jeff just told you, there is no reduction in the SSI payment. You can hover over the graph, and the work income is $1,044. That's $2,000 a month. Hello. So you still have your Medicaid as long as you don't have too much money in the bank. Remember, you're still under that $2,000 resource limit. So again, I think it's better to save it than spend some, save more if you have that kind of money. So yeah, that's working 12 hours, $12 an hour, 20 hours a week. Now that may seem unrealistic to you. So you can go back and you can change that plan. It might be 10 hours a week at $10 an hour. Whatever it is, I can assure you, I have enough time. I'll just change this plan. Let's we'll reduce it. We could also make it, let's do $10 an hour, 10 hours per week, and go to continue. Well, you won't have as much money, but looky there. So you've got the same amount of blue, you just have less green. But you still have more money because again, there's no reduction in the SSI payment until the person is no longer eligible for that amazing student earned income exclusion. Work incentive. So I'm going to add another plan. And this time I'm not going to be attending school part-time because we want to see, yes, once you're no longer a student, you could have impairment related work expenses that could keep your SSI payment higher, but you're no longer eligible for that SEIE, student earned income exclusion. So there is going to be some impact on your SSI payment. So let's keep it. If we want to do apples to apples, I'm going to hope you'd work more, but if we do 10 hours a week at $10 per hour, continue, you're still going to have more money. So if you have if the student, now young adult, quits their job, so why would you give up your your SSI payment $768? That's not much less than $943. Why would you give up $435? In other words, it's, again, people think that, if I lose SSI, then I don't have they think they'll have more money. Well, no. And in fact, the lower your SSI payment is because of work, the more money you will have, even when you're not able to use that amazing work incentive. So I'm going to go. And then, so next steps, you could actually look at, what could be some other options. So Jeff, how about I am going to stop sharing. So you could show something similar. Show people how you can do this on your phone.
Okay.
So again, we can't tell exactly who all is here, but if you're working with folks in their home, you can do this at somebody's kitchen table.
Okay, so if you're using a smartphone, then DB 101 travels along with you as long as you have service anywhere you go. It's going to look a little different though. So you're going to have your screen formatted in this fashion. And to look at the same thing that Carolyn looked at, you just need to scroll down to get to School and Work Estimator. Okay, so it's exactly the same. And we're going to go ahead and try it. I don't have a save session, so we're going to get started just like you did again with Carolyn. I also don't have the thing set. Well, maybe I do have it set up. So I'm Jeff, and I was born in May, and we're going to go with what 2006 would make me what? Is that about right? Maybe that will be.
Congratulations, 18. Jeff. You just turned 18.
I just turned 18.
So,
and again, live with parents or guardian, or, there are all kinds of other options, and including living in a shared home with roommates. Do have a disability determination, do not currently work. So we'll continue. Take a look at it. Again, the same facts are true here. 943 is the most that you can receive with SSI. You do not necessarily need. You would have to recognize if you have other benefits, because that's going to impact your SSI. But I'm just, for the purposes of this, I'm going to say I don't. Health coverage, lower no-cost Medicaid, and again, coverage under a parent's plan. Although I don't believe that coverage under a parent's plan is going to change anything in terms of the calculation. Again, continue. Again, not currently working. So let's see where I'm at.
Jeff, I think it said no in terms of how will you be attending school at least half time in this plan?
Yeah, I'm going to attend school.
Okay.
And what was it, 10 hours?
We could do 10 hours at $10 an hour, or you could make up something different if you want to, Jeff. Go for it.
I don't mind telling you, when I was that age, I was working at minimum wage for $2.65 an hour.
I know that $10 an hour when we were 18 would have been a lot of money.
Yeah, and no tips, because I would have negative tips probably. And come on. Monthly income, again, understand that SSI does not change because you're taking advantage of the student earned income exclusion. But I would have this extra work income that I wouldn't otherwise have. And again, understand, if you pair this with a stable account, the money that's in a stable account does not count towards your resource source limit. So it is extremely safe to manage your benefits, your health benefits. So again, it works the same. It just is formatted a little differently. Frankly, it's not formatted significantly differently for this population. It's just a little smaller. For other calculators, it is formatted a little differently. So that's what it looks like on a cell phone. So again, as long as you have your phone with you and you have service, you have DB 101 with you. So if you're talking to a friend who also happens to have a child with a disability and they're curious about this, you can whip out your phone and share the information with them right on the spot. Okay. Is that enough, Catherine? Carolyn? My
That's
tongue
okay,
is
Jeff.
not.
I like that name. Maybe it's better than my own, but anyway.
My wife's best friend's name, so I'll default to that.
I figured it was a compliment. So thank you. So I've just put the website. If you could share that again, I guess Amber or Kelly, just please, I just implore you, if you've not looked at it, please do, because I hope you're smiling. I hope you can see that this could be revolutionary in terms of people understanding, again, that graphic. And Tim has validated. Tim, if you want to chime in, you have validated this, that it's screen reader. It is accessible with a screen reader.
Yes. I did review this for accessibility purposes, as well as the Stable Kentucky website. I reviewed it for accessibility, and I can validate both on PC with using non-visual desktop access and my iPhone with its default voiceover screen reader. Both the Stable website and kydb101.org are fully 100% screen reader accessible.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much. So I'm going to move on to stable accounts to talk more about that now. We've been giving lots of positive introductions about stable accounts. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to actually first share the website. You all will receive a PowerPoint presentation, and I may come back to that, although I tend to like to just show you the website. So Jeff, are you seeing the website?
Indeed.
Okay, thank you. So Stable Kentucky is Kentucky's ABLE program. And if you want to know more about ABLE, I'm just going to open this up. There is a national resource center, and I'm going to put this in the chat box as well, because there are an incredible amount of resources, just information about what are ABLE accounts. So there are webinars, there are other resources. I would encourage you to get on their listserv. I think actually they have a webinar at 2:00 today about Able to Save. Just again, ways to use Able accounts, just hearing from other people how they're using theirs. And just again, because their mission is to educate, promote, and support the positive impact that Able can make on the lives of millions of Americans with disabilities and their families. So Stable is Kentucky's ABLE program, and ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. And the federal legislation was passed back in December of 2014. Then President Barack Obama signed it into law. And then states needed a couple of years. Actually, the IRS had to promulgate regulations because ABLE accounts are in the IRS code as 529A plans. So if you're familiar with 529 plans, those are essentially post-secondary plans to save for college, or just a post-secondary option. The benefit the IRS has given families through 529 and now 529A plans is that money placed into those accounts can grow, as it says right here, tax-free savings, tax-free. That's again, a gift from the IRS for disability-related expenses. So I love that it says it's more than just investing, it's investing for a better life. So one opens an account, whether it's with Kentucky's program, and both, I know Tim and Jeff and I would advocate that that's where you open an account, is with Kentucky. If you want to explore your options, you can look at the ABLE National Resource Center. There are other states with national programs. We are fortunate that Kentucky is actually part of the Ohio Stable Plan. And Stable, by the way, stands for state treasurer. It's not a reference to horses, even though we're here in Kentucky. But we are fortunate to be part of the Ohio plan, which means that, frankly, Ohio taxpayers paid for the development of the Ohio National Plan, of which we can be a part, and we, as Kentucky taxpayers, did not incur those expenses. So see if you're eligible. Well, eligibility is related to whether or not a person has a qualifying disability before the age of 26. Now, I would say that pretty much would I would think any student with probably an IEP, maybe even a Section 504 plan. But if you want to be sure, you can click here and see if you're eligible. And then there are questions that are asked. And the person has to be a resident of Kentucky, be blind, or have a medically determinable physical or mental impairment that results in marked and severe functional limitations, and such condition developed before the age of 26. Now, the person can be much older than 26. The qualifying disability, the event occurred before the age of 26. That will change to 46 in January 1st of 2026. So, but right now it's still 26, and can confirm one of the following. So a person does not, let me say that again, does not have to be receiving supplemental security income, SSI, or Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI. Now that creates eligibility, but that's not a requirement to open a stable account. Stable accounts are really resource shields. So many people who are receiving SSI want to shield resources for purposes of SSI eligibility and Medicaid. People on SSDI, as Tim said, receive Medicare, but if they have a waiver, they have the Michelle P. waiver, the Supports for Community Living waiver, home and community-based waiver, the AB acquired brain injury waiver, they have Medicaid, regardless of which benefit they receive. So they need to, again, not have too much money in the bank is what I would say, or have too many resources that count against that $2,000 resource limit, or have a condition listed on Social Security's list of compassionate allowances conditions. You can click there and there are just many, many, many. Experience blindness as determined by the Social Security Act, or, and this may be true for if you're a family member or you work with families of young children for whom this would be just such an incredible opportunity to start when their child is young, right? Because that money will grow and it will compound and have lots more opportunities and options when that child reaches age 18, or if they stay in school through age 22 in terms of financial resources. So has received and can provide, if requested, a signed diagnosis of the qualifying disability from a licensed physician. So there is no requirement that anything be submitted when one opens an account online. However, if the IRS came calling, or Social Security wanted documentation, or Medicaid, one would need to be able to provide it. Now, to open an account, Jeff, you can now open an account because you're over the age of 18. You just turned 18 this year. So you can now open it on your own if you have a qualifying disability, or if you're the authorized legal representative. So who is an authorized legal representative? Well, I love this, bound by law and love. So an authorized legal representative can be someone who has a power of attorney. That's what I have from my friend Linda, who fortunately has the Supports for Community Living waiver. She now receives a Social Security retirement payment, a very substantial retirement payment on her own work record, because she worked most of her adult life, part-time. So I open it for her, or a conservator, or a legal guardian, a spouse, a parent, a sibling, a grandparent, or a representative payee. That's why I'm also that for Linda, as I am the person that's a relationship between Social Security and me, so that I can manage her Social Security benefits in that order of priority. So again, you could open it for your child. But if that child is 18, like Jeff is now, that would require you to have possibly still be that person's representative payee if Jeff's not able to do that on his own. So again, this talks about what an authorized legal representative is. But if you're not any of that, and you want to at least have a limited power of attorney to open the account with that person's permission, you can get that form here. I'm just going to go ahead and point this out here. You can actually talk to an actual person. There are some AI voice options when you call that 800 number between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern, but you will and not really take that long, get to an actual person. But in reality, from my perspective, spend some time on the website, because I believe most of your questions will be answered, or you can look at the PowerPoint that Kelly, I have a presentation that actually the Ohio folks put together about stable accounts. So, and that talks about what it is. I always have trouble getting back to home. You can see I go there a lot. So here we are. So again, as a reminder, you open an account online. It takes $25 to open an account. Now there are monthly costs to have an account, but they far outweigh the benefit of having an account. So again, as Jeff had said, how much a student could save. Well, a student, family members can also contribute up to $18,000 a year. And if the person's employed, up to an additional $14,580 more. Now, it would be important again to understand that you can only have one account, but multiple people can contribute. Now, stable accounts are investment accounts because you have options to actually pick one or more of these investment choices. They are financial portfolios. So again, in terms of financial literacy, this is important, frankly, to me, for all adults to understand. If you have a retirement plan, if you don't have one, you need one, unless you're, I guess, just already have just lots of money. So at some point when you don't work, you'd be able to support yourself. But you would want to spend some time before opening an account to understand what these are, because when you open the account, whether it's with $25, $250, $2,500, you're going to need to decide which one, as it says, is right for you. Vanguard is the financial services company who manages the money in the stable account and all of the accounts through Ohio. So that's also another wonderful thing. That means your money is pooled with lots of other people, which gives it the opportunity again to have even greater possibility of growth. So these are the options. Bank safe. Actually, I'll scroll down to the bottom. Actually, I have to click on it. I'm sorry. There is one essentially like a money market account, which is bank safe, and it offers essentially all of your money's protected. It's an FDIC account up to, I think that's $250,000. By the way, with stable, able accounts versus 529 college savings plans, you can't just contribute up to like $100,000 like you can with a college savings plan. Again, there's a maximum, of $18,000 a year. But if you're going to put in 25, I would put it in the bank safe option, but then I would link it to my bank account and I would plan to contribute at least that much or more every month, because there are fees. There are fees. Let's see if here they are. The fees are $27 annually. So if you only put in 25 at the end of the year, you'd be in -2. So it's a very, very small amount. Again, the people who operate Ohio Stables program, of which we're a part, have to get paid. And then there are also a small amount of what are called asset-based fees. That's where Vanguard gets paid. So it's really very, very reasonable. So you have a bank safe option, you have an income option. Again, a little risky, a little more, but there's all what's called market exposure. All of that money would be in the market, 20% in stocks, 80% in bonds. And if you don't know what any of that means, again, what's important for you to understand is that it typically offers low expected investment returns, but there's not much risk. Okay, so that would be a way to understand it. Conservative growth, you're going to have a bit more exposure in stocks. Moderate growth, even more, and growth option, even more. So again, I think educating yourself, helping the person themselves to understand that they could have some in each of these categories. You're not limited. And actually, that's what for Linda, my friend Linda, I opened her account, frankly, with $1,000, and I'm pretty sure I just put $250 in bank safe, income, conservative growth, and moderate growth. I just have 25%. And then when money goes in every month, that's how it gets allocated. I think I'll have to look. So we're running out of time. We have about 7 minutes. So I'd like to see Kelly or Amber. Are there questions we can try and answer? I'm also willing to stay past 2 if you all are, but it gives us a few minutes.
I have been monitoring, Carolyn, and I'm not seeing any questions at this point.
Okay, well, here's your chance. I know Jeff had to leave for another meeting.
I don't have a question, but I do have a statement. So I just want to thank you for providing this information. It is so important for consumers or individuals with disabilities, their families, to know this information and not count on the professionals that they work with to know this information. So I just wanted to say that it is so important. And over the years, I have seen so many people who have not gotten the benefits that they were entitled to as a result of professionals not knowing all the ins and outs. So I just want to say thank you. This is very, very meaningful work.
Well, it is very, very meaningful work. In fact, for me, Kelly, I think it may be the most meaningful I've done in my very, very many years of doing this. So speaking of which, I can tell you, this is also an organization, though, to get connected with if your family member is working or planning to work, because these folks really will know about this. So they're called it's Work Incentives Planning and Assistance Programs. They are funded by the Social Security Administration with their mission is to help people from 14 years old to full retirement age and who are working or, working, interested in going to work or increasing their work hours to understand, again, the impact on their quote check, but other benefits that they may be receiving. And so I think I sent this to you all. Oh, it looks like I did. Thanks, Kelly. So I want you to look down here. There are 2 programs. You can find your county. Center for Accessible Living is in Louisville. They also provide the service to some folks in Southern Indiana. Goodwill Industries here in Lexington has the contract, you can see all of the blue counties. So people don't typically meet with you in person. They're like, they may have 4 staff. And so they're going to do this by phone or by Zoom, but the service is free. And this to me is really critical as part of transition planning, because I'm going to assume that none of you all have the same job that you did in high school or after high school or even after college. And so people's hours, they may change jobs, their hours may increase, their wage may increase. And so again, DB 101 to me is 911. You could do one of those calculators really quickly. There are different calculators when you're not in school to use, but in any event, these are like your ongoing benefits coaches. So I forgot to mention them and just wanted to in our remaining few minutes. Again,
Carolyn,
this should be part of transition planning. Yes, Tim.
I thought it was real brief. I do want to let everyone know that I did a assessment of the Someday website where you go to do your deposits and whatnot for your able accounts and stable accounts. And I can also confirm that that is also fully screen reader accessible both on computer and on mobile devices.
That's no minor accomplishment. Thank you, Tim. But
No problem.
That's really good to know as well. What Tim's talking about is with stable, again, you do everything online. So if I were to log into Linda's account, like everything, that is the Someday, the SUMDAY, that's the platform that's used to manage all the money and to manage the accounts. So I think what Tim's saying is if you logged in here, everything he would see about, he can see everything about, or somebody will, screen reader will read to him what's on your account, on his account. So that's what, that's the platform. There's also a prepaid card that there is an additional fee. A lot of families I know really like this because it's loadable from the stable account. So it's not like someone would have the card and they could just swipe everything out, but you could load a certain amount of money onto it so the person can be autonomous. I have something similar for Linda because she doesn't know anything. She knows money buys things. She doesn't understand the difference of denominations. I think if our money were colored, it might help, but it's all green dollar bills and a nickel's bigger than a dime. So figure that out. I mean, really. So in any event, I have something similar for her where I load money from her bank account onto this card so she can be totally independent. She knows to whip that baby out when she's in a restaurant and somebody will do the tip and then she'll sign her name. So the stable card is similar, except you need to make sure that you understand it's used for qualified disability expenses. And I sure didn't talk about that much. I only have a minute, but just know for stable accounts, you really do you have to make sure that it's used stable, qualified disability expenses, which is a lot. But like, I don't use Linda's money from her stable account to buy her season tickets to Derby Dinner Playhouse. I don't see that as a qualified disability expense. I did use it for her cataract surgery, her new tablet, for she had needed things after she fell and broke her pelvis in terms of shower chair. So there are plenty of things you can use it on. So I think we have 1 minute. Don't you want to go ahead and show that evaluation? I'll stop sharing.
Thank you. Visit www.kyspin.com.